From the guy who brought you Teddy Perkins and This Is America comes a show so unhinged I was like... Amazon's Swarm is a supremely messed up character study on obsession, addiction, and a reminder to never mess with Beyonce fans. In this video, we'll be taking a deep dive into The Hive, its ending, and some of the real-life inspiration for Swarm. So sit back, grab some delicious pie, because here we go. Swarm is not your traditional narrative, told across 7 episodes at roughly 35 minutes each. It's a character study into Andrea Dre Green, a young black woman and her obsession with influential pop star Nyjah. The name Nyjah comes from Arabic meaning a beautiful rose, apt considering she becomes Dre's object of affection. But to fully understand how Dre's obsession manifests and how she turns into a pie-eating serial killer, we have to understand where Dre came from. In an interview with Variety, co-creator and showrunner Janine Nabbers refers to Dre as an alien. In fact, in episode 1 you can see a documentary about aliens in the background. Dre is an alien in her own world. She is different and yearns for acceptance, and this acceptance stems from her abandonment as a child. A lot of Dre's upbringing is a mystery. In fact, the showrunner says, quote, "There's a mystery as to how Dre got to where she was, and that's okay. It's okay to not know everything." So while we may not have answers to what made Dre the monster she becomes, we do have some clues that paint a very tragic picture. According to Dre, or Tony as Dre goes by in the last episode, Dre's parents are dead. They lived on a farm where Dre says the sight of blood was common. However, we can't take any of this at face value because we know Dre is an unreliable narrator. Sometimes we'll see things from her perspective and it's a hallucination, such as the time she thinks she's eating a fruit when in fact she's biting Nyjah after sneaking into the after party. At some point, Dre went to live with her grandmother, and as we learn from Eva's therapy session in episode 4, there was some sort of abrupt death. It's not known whether Dre killed her grandmother or witnessed a terrible accident, but we do know it was with her grandmother that she first heard Nyjah. There's mention of milk being the color red, her grandmother's blood. Dre refers to her grandmother's blood as spilled milk, something she'll also use to describe the aftermath of the slumber party stabbing.
She was sorry she spilled the milk. I didn't know what that meant.
It's totally within the realm of possibility that Dre dissociates and instead of seeing blood on the floor, it's spilled milk. Just like how she thought she was seeing a fruit, but it was Nyjah, and how we'll later see Nyjah, but with Marissa's face. But we'll unpack that whole can of worms in a bit. Not much is known about this grandmother's death, but shortly after, Dre was put into foster care. This is where she is adopted by the Jacksons. The sad thing about this story is that she was adopted not because this family wanted her, but they needed a paycheck. As Harris Jackson tells her in episode 5, between his mother's medical bills and failing business, they were in desperate need of money, and when you take someone into foster care, you get money to help pay for the child. So already this is not an ideal situation. This was not a decision made out of the goodness of their heart. Yet Dre and Marissa became good friends. The two of them bonded over their love for Nyjah. However, Dre was still seen as a weirdo at school. We see some home video footage of her being ridiculed at the school's talent show, and an interview with a fellow classmate who talks about her with disdain. But I guess that's what happens when your neck is nearly broken and you're stabbed by Dre. Yes, at a slumber party, Dre believes Marissa is in danger and completely goes off on Gwen here, putting her in the hospital. This is the event that triggers the Jacksons to return Dre to foster care. Harris also had a suspicion that Dre was a lesbian and didn't want that around his daughter, so this provided him a reason to get rid of her. Unbeknownst to the Jacksons, Marissa would later go on to live with Dre in Houston, and it's Marissa's subsequent suicide which is the main catalyst for Dre's downward spiral. Using a credit card, Dre purchases 2 tickets to Nyjah, one as a gift for Marissa, but Marissa tells her she can't go because she'll be in Atlanta with her boyfriend. This is a huge blow for Dre, who sees the only person who's been kind to her entire life slowly being ripped away by this asshole boyfriend. So she decides to go for a night on the town, but her phone runs out of battery when Marissa needs her the most. In an earlier scene, we see a scar on Marissa's wrist, suggesting that she attempted suicide in the past. The boyfriend cheats on Marissa, but Dre is nowhere to be found when she needs her. So when Dre finds Marissa seemingly overdosed, she blames herself for not being there. Because of her past, Dre isn't even allowed to attend the funeral. This leads her to spiral out of control, eventually killing Khalid, Marissa's ex, as an act of revenge. This is followed by her reaching into the fridge and devouring a pie, even as she has blood still all over her hands. The show doesn't doesn't give us an explanation for this, but food, particularly junk food, is a common motif throughout the season. In her interview with Variety, the showrunner states that serial killers like Jeffrey Dahmer and the Night Stalker had strange connections with food, so Dre's connection seems to be heavily inspired by these guys. Dahmer, for example, worked at a chocolate factory where some believe he disposed of bodies in chocolate, while the Night Stalker would rummage through the fridges of those he murdered. Food becomes a method to which Dre can disassociate from the world. It takes her mind off the violent, traumatic experience she just went through. With the death of Khalid, Dre begins a violent journey that takes her all across the country, with each murder, with the exception of the ones in episode 4, being inspired by actual real-life events. Rashida's death was inspired by a murder on the outskirts of Georgia in 2018 about a woman's body that was found in a wooded area. Here are the strippers wanted for murder from the events of episode 2. What the show doesn't really hold back is Nija's connection to Beyonce. In episode 6, they actually bleep out Beyonce's name and blur out the posters of her on the wall. There are references to an obsessed fan rushing the stage at a Jay-Z concert where Beyonce was on stage. We see Becky with the good hair, a fierce pillow, a 2007 Beyonce Experience ticket, not to mention Beyonce was born in Houston where much of the show takes place. Also, I just love the totally not subtle Helen talk show. By the time we get to episode 7, Dre's journey has her in remission, or at least that's what it looks like. She doesn't have a phone, feels more comfortable in her sexuality, and establishes what seems to be a healthy relationship with a woman named Rashida. Even when Rashida tells her on night 1 that she doesn't like Nija, Dre doesn't kill her. It's only until shit hits the fan later on that Dre relapses and we get the show's wild ending. Much like Dre wanted to surprise Marissa with Nija tickets in episode 1, we've come full circle with Dre surprising Rashida with tickets. Now, Rashida is understandably pissed. She's told Dre multiple times that she hates Nija, and has grown to resent Dre, who constantly brings Nija up as one of their top 5 topics of conversation in their relationship. Not to mention, Dre is broke. Rashida's been paying her cut of the rent, and those tickets are thousands of dollars. Rashida can't believe how selfish Dre is, and goes off on her, resulting in Dre strangling her to death. She just wanted to share Nija with her because she loves her. Unfortunately, Dre forgets that the tickets she bought are now on the burning corpse of Rashida, and if she's going to make that concert, she must devise a new way inside. So she does what any rational person would do and kills the scalper. At the concert, Dre approaches the stage as if in some sort of trance, but what transpires next is all a hallucination. Nija orders security to let Dre go, and in one of the weirdest moments of the entire show, Nija's face is that of Marissa. Dre's 2 obsessions have molded into one. Her 2 loves have literally combined. In episode 1, Dre makes a promise to Marissa that they'll one day meet her, and this is a fucked up way of fulfilling that.
We have to meet her one day. Promise me.
We will. I promise.
Nija asks her to sing, a callback to her talent show. The 2 leave the concert together with Dre saying thank you as she cries on Nija's chest. This harkens back to Dre's dream of meeting Nija in episode 1.
And she'll invite us back to her house for dinner. I could feel it.
This is her dream of being invited back to Nija's with her best friend, but in reality she's probably being taken to jail in the back of a police car. It's likely Dre will be put away for good. We have a detective on her case and now 2 more bodies, that of the scalper and Rashida, that can easily be traced back to her. What started as a story about obsession in Houston ends as a story about obsession in Houston. It has come full circle. But what did you think of Swarm? Is it worth a watch, or is this a pass? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to like and subscribe, and for more bad takes you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember...
Okay, our job here is to make this hard.